Are you tired of losing yourself every time you get into a relationship? Ever feel like dating just isn't for you because you end up anxious, people pleasing, and completely drained? In today's episode, we're breaking down a raw and honest therapy session. We dive deep into why this person disappears in relationships, where this pattern comes from, and what it actually takes to stay true to yourself while still being with someone. If you ever felt the relief of being single mixed with the loneliness of wanting connection, this one's for you. Stick around as we unpack the key themes, the toxic cycles, and the real talk that could change how you see dating. Hello all, I'm Renee and welcome to another episode of Love Hacks. And today we're going to be talking about something that happens to a lot of people, which is figuring out or trying to figure out why relationships never feel right or never work. And Michaela and I, we're not doing this podcast together today, but we did discuss this with an individual, a lady. I'll leave it at that. And she kept saying it's because I'm never successful at relationships. So I'm going to give you a guideline as to why not. And the first point I want to make is self-abandonment. This lady told us, that she completely loses her identity in relationships. She puts her partner's happiness first and forgets about her own needs and who she really is. And she admits that when she's single, she feels calm and normal. But the minute she's in a relationship, it becomes stressful, overwhelming, and she feels like she's faking it or disappearing. And I thought to myself, well, what's the main problem? Well, basically, it's her fear of losing the guy or the girl, and therefore stretching it so far that she ends up erasing herself. And yeah, many people go through that, you see. It's about just not thinking of yourself. And I'm not saying everything should be me, but at the same time, I'm not saying everything should be them. Sorry, there's some hassle going outside, some carnival or something. I shut the windows, but it is what it is. So yeah, this business of erasing yourself, losing your identity, trying to please somebody just because you want to keep them, well, that is a huge issue. Now, I told her, well, you have to figure out where all that people pleasing, in this case pleasing your partner 24/7, comes from. And she said that she dug into the roots of this pattern, because it's not the first time it happens to her. She thinks it probably started from growing up feeling like she had to be perfect, achieve a lot, or take care of everyone else to feel like she mattered. And yeah, she's got a really harsh inner voice that's constantly telling her she's not good enough or not doing things right. And at the deepest level, it is about whether she can actually feel lovable just the way she is. She obviously hasn't listened to Billy Joel, who, by the way, folks, okay, that singer is old, but there's a song, Just the Way You Are, you know. And I guess this lady, has never really sat down to think about that. She's always thinking about keeping the other person happy, you know? And that really can be so very draining, trying to constantly keep the other side happy. And I know she's not the only one. There are many people like that. And it becomes a sort of prison. A prison for herself or himself, you know, or the people are just trying to make the other person happy. It's quite sad, really, because self-abandonment, you know, I mean, at the end of the day in this life, you have to be able to depend on yourself. And sure, you're going to make mistakes, but so's the other person. We're imperfect, right? And I'm going to get to something about that in a second, but demanding so much from yourself, not for yourself, but for somebody else, is really a recipe either for disaster or for constant frustration. And, you know, this business, I'm trying to think of different people that I've met in my lifetime, and even films. You guys know I refer to films and series quite a bit. But, you know, just trying to keep it together. I'm thinking about that series, Big Little Lies. I can't remember the name of the character, but I can remember the name of the actress, and that's Nicole Kidman. In that series, Nicole Kidman does her utmost to keep everything perfect, and she experiences, sadly, physical violence. But I mean, it doesn't need to be only about that, or it doesn't have to have that, you know? Sorry, my dogs are going to join that party next door. Sorry about that, folks, really. And they're yelling a bunch of things, and that's throwing me off a bit, but, well, that's life, folks. We all have neighbors. So yeah, that's one example. Another one, well, I mean, I can think of Princess Diana, of course. I didn't know her, may she rest in peace. But I do feel that by looking at her history, really, especially at the beginning, she really adored the then Prince Charles, just to throw some examples. And he never seemed to be satisfied with her. You know, it was a one-way street. Thankfully, within her life, she managed to pull out of that. I'm not blaming him either, you know, but you can see in several past videos that she was eagerly trying to please him and not vice versa, you know. But the good thing is she found her way. Her accident, well, how sad, but at least in the last years of her life, she came into her own. And you know, it's wonderful to see people blossom out of these people-pleasing relationships and love themselves, you know. Because, again, at the end of the day, who are you going to depend on, right? So it's very important to love yourself. And to not be so demanding of yourself. I'm not saying be a flop or a lazy pants, no. But, hey, recognize the good things you do. Even if other people don't appreciate them. Especially if it's your partner. Because becoming too much of a perfectionist is gonna wreck you eventually. And that's why perfectionism and fear of rejection, these are very dangerous. In the case of this lady, well, she says she tries way too hard to be the ideal girlfriend because she's terrified of getting rejected. And this creates the same exhausting cycle every single time. She gives too much, and you know what? She eventually gets burned out and pissed off. And she pulls back, the relationship falls apart, and then she's back to enjoying being single, but she says she feels lonely. So this is where if we're in a situation like this, where we're in a relationship, we don't like it, we try to do our best, and we're just not getting the appreciation we require, or don't require. We just haven't convinced ourselves that we're enough on our own. Well, then a lot of the time we pull back, we perhaps get upset or pissed off, and then we destroy the relationship, whether it was worth it or not. And then we start healing on our own. But then a lot of us who want a partner end up still feeling lonely. So guess what? We end up engaging in yet another relationship with the same potential of failure, because we haven't learned the lesson of, hey, I'm enough. And I have the right to disagree with the person, and I have the right to enjoy myself on my own and have that person appreciate me as well. And appreciate myself the whole way through. And admit when I'm wrong, but at the same time not torture myself because I made the other person that upset. And that's when one has to ask oneself a bunch of big questions, including, really, if you've had that sort of pattern, that tendency, then you have to sit down and think, well, what actually makes a relationship good? And can you stay yourself and still be with someone? How does being scared of rejection mess with your confidence? Why is that critical voice always in my head and so loud? How do you handle anxiety? Why is it so hard to ask for what you want? Is that right in a relationship? What does it take to actually trust someone and take the risk? And how can you grow in a relationship? And these are tough questions, folks. Because especially, I can tell you guys, why is it so hard to ask for what you want? That's a big one for me. And also, how can you actually, what does it take to actually trust someone? If you've got that little voice telling you, hey, no, I'm not buying this. And sometimes we don't want to listen to that little voice, and we don't want to seem paranoid, okay? We don't want. Sorry, folks, again, it's people. Just being able to trust someone takes so much out of us. So much, Give me 10 seconds because I'm gonna close the window. Yes, please stay with me. I think that's better. So yes, I think that's much better. Sorry about that, folks, but yeah, there's a party going on. So yeah, focusing on what does it take to actually trust someone? And to then take the risk of getting to know them, and to risk and to opening yourself up, right? Right? That takes a lot, folks. But you have to ask yourself those questions. Because if you don't, you're going to fall back into the same cycle. And that's the honest truth. Right? So, what you have to really do is stay calm and don't judge at the beginning. And don't be so hard on yourself. Don't beat yourself up so much. Learn to understand yourself better. The key point is you should be able to keep your own identity even when you're with someone. That you have that right. And it doesn't have to be all single or totally wrapped up in the other person. Meaning, like, you have to feel at ease with yourself when you're with this other person. Not walking on eggshells all the time, or feeling like you're walking on broken glass, like that song, You have to be able to be yourself. And you have to, just like this person wants things from you, you also can say, hey, I want this from you. And I'm not talking about monetary things. I'm talking about your time, moments, trust, being able to speak your opinion about certain things without the other person cringing. So it's about that deep sense of self, because when you're your full self, then you can be a partner of another full self. Because it can happen the other way around. I mean, maybe your partner is insecure. And again, if you love that person, you're going to tell them, hey, I love you, love yourself. Sure, there's going to be moments where you differ, right? Of course. We're human, we're not robots. But for the most part, the person should allow you to be yourself. Well, it's not even allow. You should be able to be yourself, and vice versa. That's what makes it a relationship that has the potential to grow. If there's not that, then seriously, I mean, if it works, it's because you're giving yourself up, or vice versa. Right? And that makes nobody, I'm not even going to say happy. That makes nobody content when they can't be themselves. Yeah, and you see it over and over again. For example, guys who want to go to the football game, Friday Night Lights, and the girlfriend is like, no, we're going to the movies because I feel like it. And the guy, because he loves his girl so much, he's like, okay. But he really loves Friday Night Lights. He loves the football game. I'm not saying go every Friday, but that's something he likes. And she doesn't even think about going with him or letting him go. Or the girl who wants to, go salsa dancing, and her partner is either a sports guy or a high intellectual, and he says, no, well, you're not going. I'm sorry, I don't like dancing. Or, no, I don't want you going on your own because I don't trust you. And right there, part of that girl's life is ripped out. She loves dancing, but her partner doesn't, and he doesn't accede to anything, doesn't accept anything, won't even bother accompanying her, and won't allow her to go out with her friends to dance. And there are cases like that too. He doesn't put himself in her shoes, and in the other case, this woman, anti-sports, doesn't bother to put herself in his shoes. So in both cases, and they're opposite genders, they sacrifice their taste, their hobbies or things that really give them pleasure in order to please their partners. And you know what ends up happening, folks? They might even get depressed over that. Because maybe there are people that have to work very hard all week long, and the 1 or 2 thrills they get either by playing or watching football or any sport, and the other one wanting to dance, they get that taken away from them. So all they have is their partner and the weekly routine. What sort of a life is that? And then they get to a point where they're like, you know what, I can't anymore. Okay, I'll be single again. And they do it, and now they can either go to the football game or go dancing. But in the back of their head, they feel alone. They feel needy. They want somebody to be next to them. And guess what? They end up getting involved with somebody else without filtering, without asking themselves those questions I mentioned earlier, because all they want is a person to be with them. You see? And it happens once, twice, thrice, and more times. Personally, I have lived that. I'm not going to reveal the name of the person, but I have noticed a pattern, and in my case, and I'm being open with you guys, what ended up happening, because I was repeating that pattern, is with each new relationship, my anger started to surface. I'm not talking about physical violence or anything like that, but just like irritation. Because through trying to please, I became highly irritated because I would notice the other side wouldn't meet me, as the song says, wouldn't meet me halfway. So I became irritated, and I would terminate not one, several relationships out of irritation. And then guess what? Yes, that feeling of loneliness, but then, sorry, the dogs and their timing. Please forgive them. Through that irritation, I would terminate relationships or got terminated, both ways. And then maybe a few months would pass. This is my past, by the way, not today, but a few months would pass. I'd be like, oh, I feel lonely, and here we go again. Then another suitor would show up, and maybe I'd give him a shot. Same sort of thing. So yeah, this is not the path. And take it from me, folks. If you haven't found the right person who can't let you be yourself, who, again, makes you anxious by certain behaviors once you've started dating, another song, listen to your heart, okay? Not when he's calling for you, no. Listen to your heart when you just don't feel comfortable, to avoid escalation, in terms of negativity. Listen to yourself and know that it's better to be alone and love yourself than engage in yet another relationship that's destined for failure because you have not asked yourself those questions.
Looking for real conversations about love, connection, and everything in between? Listen to Love Hacks. Honest, heartfelt, and in 4 languages: English, Espanol, Francais, and Portuguese. Find your version wherever you get your podcast. See you soon.
because you're just taken by the element of surprise and butterflies in your stomach. But that folks, that is not the substance of a meaningful relationship. That's not the base. Don't let yourself get carried away. I'm not saying, oh, be antisocial and that. No, but don't give yourself away. Oh, just because the guy says, oh, you're very good looking and I want to date you. Even these dogs today, guys, I've just had a festival. I have no idea why my dogs are doing this. But, yeah. I mean, you can get dogs. Yes, are they annoying sometimes with the barking? Absolutely. That's my humor. But, hey, they love me unconditionally, as does the cat. And I'm okay with that. And you should be okay too. And if you are with a partner, just as long as they let them be yourself and vice versa, because also you have to be considerate. I mean, if you don't like, I don't know, barbecued chicken with lots of hot sauce, but they love it, and they tell you, can we order that? And you always say no, well, you're not exactly being considerate. I mean, small things like that, right? It's a balancing act, but there always has to be a comfortable background, one where you can say, you can give your opinion and vice versa. Hey, how does this look on me? Well, not too great. But they're not offending you. You're just asking for their honest opinion, and vice versa, right? Hey, does this suit fit me well? No. What about my haircut? You went overboard, but come on, honey. Yeah, I'm telling you the truth. Or do you want me to lie? No. Thank you for telling me the truth. Maybe I'll grow it out a bit. And then when they do look good, tell them, hey, you look wonderful. And vice versa. Without getting all, emotional and that, just tell the truth. That's what you're supposed to be able to do with a partner. And you should have things in common, but you're not going to be twins either. Right? And above all, you should feel at ease. I mean, we have so much stress in our lifetime. The last thing you need is a stressful relationship, is a relationship where you feel you have to impress your partner 24/7. That is a recipe for illness, because you're constantly on your toes. Oh, he didn't like my food. He doesn't like the way I dress. Oh, he likes it now. Oh, good. Like a little doggy. Mind you, my doggies are not eager to impress me at all. But what I'm saying is the typical scenario, No, it's about, I feel comfortable with this person. That's so valuable, guys. And if you don't have that, and if it's making you miserable, get out of it. Because it's not going to change. Unless you go to therapy with a really good therapist. But if you feel comfortable and the person does as well, hey, you've hit the jackpot. And I'm happy to say I have had a relationship like that, where I felt completely at ease. It crumbled for other reasons, but I must say this person that I lived with for 5 years, even when we had fights, I was always comfortable. I could always speak my mind and vice versa. And when we were having a good time, oh my goodness, we had a wonderful time. There was that trust. Hey, I feel sick. Hey, I fancy this. Hey, why didn't you hang the clothes? But it was all open. And I will always value that relationship. I consider that relationship a success, even though I'm not with that person. Because sometimes relationships end for other reasons. But during that time, I felt very comfortable. Whereas I've been in other relationships afterwards, particularly, where I felt like I needed to make a constant impression, where I felt the guy just wasn't there with me, or was and then wasn't, and it conditioned me. I mean, folks, I've had men tell me, I want you to have long nails. And I'm like, well, I type all the time. Why do you want me to have long? Because I like it. Because I like it. And I'm like, well, for me, it's a little bit impractical because I'm at the keyboard. And I'm not telling you, hey, I like men with beards. And I don't mean in the second sense. I mean in the original. Or I like men with a six-pack. Or I like, I've had men say, I really like women with long hair. And sometimes I don't feel like having long hair because it's hot. And they don't think about my heat. They're just like, oh, I love women with long hair. I like that. Grow your hair out. And it's like, what? I don't feel like having long hair. Don't you like me for me? You see, those little things, even little things like that. I mean, obviously there's far greater issues, but that's when you say, well, hold on a second. I'm not telling you to have a military cut or to be going to the gym. You chose to go out with me. Why are you telling me these things? When all I want to do is get to know you, and it's my business whether I grow my nails or have long hair or go to the gym or you go to the gym, There's such superficial things, right? So, guys, I want you to think, and this lady, by the way, yeah, she kept on going from one to another, one relationship to another, to another, to another. And she always allowed her partners to tell her, hey, I think you should be slimmer, or I think you should cook better, or, different things. She kept falling into it, then getting upset, wrecking the relationship, being single for a bit, and then voila, yet another disaster. So yeah, folks, think about this person. People, think about what I told you. Right now I'm alone, yes. And there's no problem with that. Because before I was seeing somebody, this person began to become very inconsistent. And I said, am I going to continue with this? Is this giving me peace? And I told the girl that too. I said, is it giving me peace? No, it isn't. I don't feel happy. I'm not happy. And okay, we can't be happy all the time, but I wasn't even content. I was frustrated. And I told her that. I said, you know what? I bailed before it got worse. Because I thought, how many months am I going to spend feeling like this? This person from appreciating me now has way more priorities and even says it. I bailed. And I think that's okay. And am I going to go date somebody tomorrow? No. Because I'm healing. I told her that too. I said, can you please just give yourself a break? And it's okay to be alone. Again, it's better to be alone than to be with the wrong person. So, folks, I hope this helped you guys. Focus on the questions, okay? You can re-listen to the questions in particular. And, guys, I wish you all a really excellent week. Stay safe, stay healthy, and appreciate yourselves. I say it from the heart. All right. Take care, and I'll see you soon. Bye.
If this episode resonated with you, Make sure to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear from you.